Welcome to another TLC podcast. I've got the lovely Aldo Picek with me today.
And my host is the amazing Deborah Williams-Mathias.
Oh, that's very kind, Aldo.
Well, we did train together many years ago.
We did train as mental health nurses very many years ago. Yeah?
Yes.
Shall we say how many?
93 to 96.
That's right, it is, yes. And look at us.
I know.
Look how successful we are as nurses
I know.
now.
I think we were both destined for greatness.
We were.
And our meeting here today was probably fate.
It definitely was, I think.
Probably
yeah?
fate.
But what I do want to talk with you about today is how we sort of combine well-being and mental health with exercise, because I've heard that you are an exercise guru of some sort.
Well, I wouldn't say guru, and I am certainly no Olympic athlete, as you can see, but I am a massive advocate for various reasons of people taking physical exercise.
Right. So how did you find yourself in this to start with?
Well, for most of my nursing career, my lifestyle was probably you would not describe as healthy.
I can understand that, Aldo.
I would go to work, I would come home, I would eat a big meal, I would have half a bottle of wine, and then I would fall asleep. And I did this for many years. And at one point, went to my GP and said, "Doctor, I'm tired all the time." Mm-hmm. Now, what I didn't know then was that phrase, tired all the time, is a phrase doctors often hear. And if they hear that phrase, tired all the time, they will write an abbreviation on the blood form, TATT, tired all the time. Right. And it's usually one of the early indicators of type 2 diabetes developing.
Right, okay.
And my blood tests subsequently came back and my blood sugars were elevated.
Right, okay.
However, luckily for me, they also said you've got a strong underlying viral infection and your raised blood sugar is probably being caused by the infection. But I took it as a warning sign that and I was really worried this would be my first chronic condition of many. So I thought, I don't want any chronic conditions. I must start looking after my physical health, because before that, all I ever did was cycle to work every now and again. That was my only exercise, which isn't bad, but it wasn't doing me any good. But at that point, I really didn't know what exercise to do. So right. I went into work one fateful day in February 2014, and one of my colleagues said, "Hey, Aldo, do you want to do Tough Mudder?"
Right.
And my first question was, what's Tough Mudder?
Well, that's what I was just going to ask you. What is Tough Mudder?
Well, they said it's an obstacle course.
Right.
I went, okay. They said, look on YouTube. Look on YouTube and see what Tough Mudder is. So I had a look at YouTube, and what it is essentially is a 10-mile obstacle course. And the obstacles, you don't have to do them, but you should try. And the obstacles all play on some fear. So if enclosed spaces, height, water, electricity, low temperatures, and you simply run the course, attempt the obstacles, and you get a headband, an orange headband, to say you've done your Tough Mudder.
All right, okay.
And we had a small group. And it does make a difference if you do these exercises in a group. We had a small group, a small team, who went to the Tough Mudder in the southwest of England. And it was, quite frankly, one of the best things I've ever done. It was amazing. And I took part in some local events here, like the Men's Health Survival of the Fittest in Cardiff and Back to the Trenches in Nantagaredig, and became firmly hooked on obstacle course racing. Now, if we're honest, my upper body strength is dreadful.
Right, okay.
I can't do any of the climbing obstacles. I can't do any of the hanging obstacles. But obstacle course racing is not the point. The point is to just go out and have some fun, get muddy, get cold, get wet, and just have some fun.
Yeah.
So ever since then, I've done that. I do a little bit of running, although I'm exceptionally slow. I run like a hippo. I have no grace, but I can run slowly and steadily over long distances. So I enjoy a bit of running, 10Ks, half marathons, the occasional marathon. But I've particularly become hooked on and swear by the military style of training.
Right. Now, you've spoke about this to me when we were coming up in the car, didn't you?
Yes.
Yeah, so why have you become hooked on it and what's it about?
I find that one of the best ways to motivate me to achieve is for someone to be horrible to me.
You did say that in the car as well.
It is.
Yeah.
And of course, the military instructors are particularly good at finding something about you and being horrible to you. So
Right.
I particularly enjoy events where someone is shouting at me to get lower, get higher, go faster, go slower, carry more. And there are quite a few exercise classes and groups out there that focus on the military side of things. So in the early days it was British Military Fitness and race events like Judgment Day, who are all run by military guys. Lately it's a group in Swansea called Swansea Outdoor Fitness, and they're all military instructors. And it's that style of training I much prefer than someone being nice to me in a gym.
Right.
So I prefer exercising outdoors as well. And of course, exercising outdoors has a number of benefits, including, sunlight on the skin, vitamin D, improves your mood. And of course, it gets you used to being outside in all weathers.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I prefer the military side. It's not for everybody, to be fair.
Yeah.
That we do laugh at people doing the 5K park run, running along, prissy road runners, whereas we're rolling on the beach or in the sea, getting wet and dirty. So that's my preferred form of exercise, but it's not for everybody.
No. But it sounds as though, Aldo, that you've tried certain things. And I'm just thinking about, the foster carers in TLC and sort of advice, really, that, between us, we're thinking about with regards to exercise and well-being. Because
Yes.
when I was younger, very much younger, I used to play a lot of netball, which I really used to enjoy. But as I've got older, I've become very lazy. And like you, I worry because my mum had diabetes at my age when she was sort of reaching menopause, really. And yeah, I worry thinking I'd like to do a bit more exercise. So where would I start? And be gentle with me, Aldo, please.
Or the NHS Choices website
Right.
is a really good resource because it provides you with advice on starting to exercise and provides very, very simple guidelines on what sort of exercises you can do for certain age groups.
Right.
You will also find that lots of local authority gyms and private gyms will often tailor their classes to certain age groups. So they do, for example, in the Swansea gyms, classes for the over 50s.
I like the sound of that, Aldo.
But you won't find me in one of them. There are also, especially these days with lockdown, lots and lots of people doing physical trainer courses. So you can get lots of individual one-to-one help, and they should, in theory, have the expertise to tailor the exercises to, one, what you're able to do, any injuries or illnesses you have, and also what your goals are.
Right.
Because for many people, it's what your goal is. So many people start off with a telephone app or a class called Couch to 5K, which is designed to take people who do no exercise in as little as 11 or so weeks to running a 5K run.
Yeah, so it's quite a gentle, safe type of exercise,
It is.
really.
The app is designed in such a clever way that you don't notice your running ability building up to do the 5K. And then many people will graduate then to things like Park Run, which, as much as I laugh at Park Run, is probably one of the most inclusive exercise classes out there. It's free. Nobody laughs if you're particularly slow. We really laugh more at the people who are particularly fast because it's like Linford Christie going to a school sports day.
School run, yeah.
So we celebrate the people that don't traditionally do any exercise in Park Run. And then once you've got to Park Run, it quite frankly can be quite addictive, and you start to run longer distances. You progress to doing 10Ks. Many people now progress to doing half marathons, and an absolutely amazing number of people these days have even done marathons.
Wow.
I think 1 in 10 people in the UK have done a marathon, so it's a relatively easy thing to do. I go to marathons and I don't run the whole thing. I run some of it and I walk some of it, and I do it at my own pace, but it's still a marathon.
Yeah. And it depends, as you said, which I think is really important listening to you, what your goals are, you know, whether it's, you know, and what your motivation is, you
Yes.
know. And, you know, I guess our motivation tends to be quite health driven, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yes. So for me, it's blood pressure, it's cardiovascular system, it's just the ability to stay relatively mobile. It's getting out there to be part of a group and exercise with people who want to achieve the same sorts of goals. It's about having fun. It's about being able to laugh at yourself. It's about getting out into the sunlight in all weathers to enjoy the weather. But other people do it for different reasons. Some people take it very, very seriously, and whatever floats, you know, whatever floats their boat. Most people find a form of exercise that suits them, whether it's Pilates and yoga or marathon running. There's so many options out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think I'm at the other end of the spectrum at the moment, because I've chosen to live a quiet life and I've chosen to live in the country, and I've got both my dogs. So what I find pleasure doing is a couple of times a day, just walking up the field that I've got behind me, standing just at the top of the field, and I'm lucky enough to be able to see the sea from there. And I spend just a bit of time looking at that and then just walking back down the field, and I feel as though I just feel much better.
Yes.
So it's not a huge, intense type of run or
No.
walk or anything, but it just makes me feel a bit better.
But there could just be the vitamin D in your skin
Absolutely.
from the sunlight that naturally lifts your mood.
Yeah, absolutely.
And of course, what do people do in the winter? They tend to stay indoors when really they should be outdoors, getting that sunlight on their skin, which naturally raises your mood and makes you feel happier.
Absolutely. You know, absolutely from there. And I think then, did I hear that you had also undertaken an Ironman in the past?
No,
No.
absolutely not. I can't swim.
Can't you?
No.
Well, where did I
So
get
my
that?
swimming lets me down.
But would you have, if you could swim?
If I could swim, I would. But what I do enjoy are some of the military style endurance events.
Right, okay.
So there is an infamous event that doesn't run at the moment called Judgment Day the Unknown.
Yeah.
And the premise is really simple. You have to turn up at a specified place at a specified time with a specified list of kit, and then the instructors have a minimum of 36 hours to simply make you give up. So it's very, very similar to SAS Who Dares Wins.
Yes, that's what I was just thinking about.
But on TV, they get rest and somewhere to sleep, whereas in Judgment Day, you don't.
Right.
And really, the instructors simply use tried and trusted methods in military boot camps to simply just make you give up. And at any point, you can give up, but the aim is to survive the 36 hours no matter what they do. And I've done it twice, and I've passed once, and I failed once, or I exited the process once. And those are my favourite type of events, my absolute favourites, because you never know what they're going to make you do.
Right.
It's mental, it's emotional, it's physical. So there are memory exercises and map reading exercises. There are hours where they spend getting you in and out of the sea, doing exercises in the water. They will deliberately target your emotional weaknesses, because these instructors are absolutely expert at looking at you and knowing what buttons they are, and they will press your button until you give up. So for me, it was being overweight, it was being middle-aged, it was not being particularly flexible, and especially the first time I did it, the instructors were ruthless for the whole of the 36 hours. And in fact, at one point, halfway through the event, they do an exercise where you all sit around in a group, and they have a big board with your name on, and everybody has 2 votes. You vote for the person who you think is doing the best and the person who is doing the worst, who shouldn't be in the process.
My gosh, that's really psychological.
And you have to turn to the person and say why you're voting them. And I got the most votes for being the worst.
Really?
It was awful. And there are pictures of people, you know, making those votes and being physically crying because it's such a horrible thing to do. And then if you come last, you get the most votes for being kicked out. The instructors will not put their arm around you and say, oh, there, never mind. They will say, what do you want to do with that information? Do you want to carry on and show the rest of the group that you can do that sort of thing? Or do you just want to go home?
Right, okay.
And I later found out that the instructors who run the event had like a book about who they thought would go out first.
Oh, right. And?
I was the person they thought would go out first.
Right, and what happened?
I've passed. I finished.
You passed.
All the way through for that. And some of the other competitors were really, really supportive.
Wow, right.
Because they all, and to be fair, the other people taking part were amazing athletes. They were serving military personnel. And I was, quite frankly, the oldest, most unfit, fattest person there.
Okay.
And it was awful. It was awful. But I passed. I proved I could do it. I've got the tattoo to prove it. So I know Ironmans, they have a tattoo when they complete an Ironman. Everybody that passes Judgment Day gets the tattoo on them somewhere to prove they've done it.
Oh, wow, okay. And like you said, something which came out from what you were saying really strong was doing this with people and having that support with people.
Yeah.
That's something that's really important with everything that you've been saying.
Especially the Judgment Day people, the people that have done Judgment Day or worked on Judgment Day, they consider themselves a family, having been through what we've been through to pass those events. So I'm going to a race in a couple of weeks' time in Peterborough, and the Judgment Day family, a lot of them will be there, and we call each other by our numbers. We're a number. I'm 158.
Right.
And it'll be really great to see them all again.
Yeah.
And then I'm also a member of a group called Mudstickle, who we also enjoy running in mud. So I'll be running in a wave, and it will just be the Mudstickle wave. We'll all be wearing the same colour, and we'll go around the course in a group, just having fun.
Yeah.
Because we're part of a group.
Because that's the other thing as well that we talked about was, keeping fit, getting fit, but just having fun with it.
Oh,
just
absolutely.
Really
You have
enjoying
to.
it. And that really comes through with what you're saying, Aldo.
You can't do exercise for any length of time if you're not enjoying it. And for example, an example for me is parkrun. Far too fast and furious. I don't enjoy doing parkrun at all. It's just too quick and no fun at all. But rolling around on a beach in the sand and going in and out of the seat is much, much more fun.
And being shouted at.
Now,
psychologically, as a mental health nurse, we could talk a little bit more about that, but I think that we would just be going down a completely different route, isn't it?
Potentially.
But, absolutely. One question I wanted to ask you, though, was Ant Middleton now in Who Dares Wins SAS. Do you think he's going to call you up soon for a Special Forces project? Mission Impossible.
I've not read any of his books.
Haven't you?
But some of the people that run Judgment Day are friendly with the people that do SAS Who Dares Wins. So there's a lot of cross-pollination of ideas. I wouldn't want to go on the TV one because I don't like publicity, which is why am I doing this? I don't like publicity. I don't like being in front of the camera at all.
Yeah.
I know I could do myself justice on that program because all the things that they do to people on that program I've had done to me already, and I know that those techniques work, but I also know what you need to do to overcome them. But I know he won't be calling me up anytime soon. I was a lot fitter then than I am now because of COVID and having had COVID and not training as much as I should have after having had COVID. My fitness isn't what it was, but I can still do some of the races. I can still run long distances, albeit slower than I used to.
And that's interesting you saying that as well, because a lot of people will be listening and just thinking, oh my gosh, my fitness has deteriorated after being in lockdown, after having COVID, because it's such an awful illness, and to hear you say, look, even though you have suffered this, you can build yourself back up.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you have to do it with care. And if you have had COVID and you're suffering from long COVID, I would advise people to speak to their GP before they start any course of exercise. But I probably would advise people to do it anyway, even without COVID. But yes, the benefits physically and mentally of doing exercise are. Well, everybody knows what they are. It's not like it's a new discovery. There are mental and physical benefits to doing regular exercise. And I would suggest that if you don't, find something you enjoy doing. And don't let anybody tell you that the form of exercise you do is any better or any worse than theirs. Find whatever you like to do and just do it.
Yeah. And I think something that's coming through with yourself really clearly is, as you're saying, to have that goal, to really be clear about what you do,
Yes.
what you're doing, and the goal while you're doing it, and to have fun.
Yes.
I think that's the clear message that you were saying.
You have to have fun. Goals in the early days, I did what a lot of people do. I set progressively more and more difficult goals. So 2 races in a month, 2 races in a week, 2 races in a day, and of course suffered injuries and have damaged some of my joints. And now, on the advice of one of my physiotherapists, they said just change your goals and be a bit more realistic with your goals.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily go for really, really intense events. I go for the slower events that last, a day, or the shorter events that can be done a bit more slowly and just be a bit more realistic. And I get just as much fun out of those as I used to doing the really manic things.
Yeah. So again, like you're saying, take your time, enjoy it, think about your goals, think about your body, particularly with us, if we don't mind saying that we're getting a little bit older, so we can just take our time more.
Yes,
Yeah?
you have to, but it's also fun showing the youngsters. Because people will judge you on your appearance. Like I related earlier that I think I did a Swansea half marathon relatively recently, and I was trying to get into the athlete's pen, and one of the marshals said, "Are you a runner, sir?" And which I thought was, I might be old and balding and overweight, but I'm still running a half marathon, and how dare you ask if I'm actually a runner? Given that you're a steward not running. But people do judge you on your appearance. But then I can take particular delight in proving to people that they judge you. If they judge you on appearance, they will sometimes misjudge you.
Absolutely.
So I've learned never to judge a person by the size and their shape, because just sometimes they will hand you your own backside on a plate, having beaten you soundly.
Absolutely. Oh, Aldo, thank you for speaking tonight. I've really enjoyed our conversation.
No, thank you. As you can tell, I love talking about this sort of stuff.
I can see, and I think it'll be really motivational for people, listening. So thank you.
It's a pleasure.
Okay.